wouldn't this be a great place to learn how to deal with those struggles? Whether you get talks at these places about mental health, you get talks about profitability, you get talks about staffing and people, environmental stuff, like, it's unimaginable the gamut of information that you can get. You could do a whole master class on marketing if you just walked around and just look and see how people are promoting their products, how they're trying to attract people, what the brand image that they're creating is incredible. The stories they tell is fascinating.
At every level in your industry, you will have a problem in front of you that you need solving for. And I think these bar shows typically will be trying to answer that.
Hello and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Party of Six. We have five folks on our panel today, and we're going to break down all about conventions, education, and kind of talk about how, as an owner, you can go out and learn more about the industry. Joining us today is Cliff Kreider of Truck and Tap and Stinger Compliance, Aoife Halliday of Ruckus Group, Dave Nitzel of Dave and Dave Consulting, and Meenakshi Singh, who, in addition to owning a number of bars like Sidecar and The Brook, is also the head of the India Bar Show. So she's kind of our inside expert on understanding conferences and events. This episode of the Party of Six podcast is brought to you by the India Bartender Show. That's going on this next week, so make sure you check it out, whether you can attend in person or not, because they have some amazing things going on there. We'll be putting out lots of information throughout the upcoming week. Also, this episode is brought to you by Stinger Compliance. If you're looking for a way to double check if your team is properly checking IDs and following all the various liquor laws that they have to follow, Stinger Compliance is definitely a great tool there. They are linked down in the show notes. And finally, this show is brought to you by QuickSpec, which is my AI tech company. What we do is we analyze your numbers and give you dashboards and AI to help drive your business forward so you can spend less time doing data analytics and more time working on your bar or restaurant. With that, let's get into it. Where I want to start, guys, because this was interesting, as we were talking about getting this topic together, I noticed something. Meenakshi runs a show. Dave speaks at a lot of shows. Cliff went to his first show, I think, last year.
That's right.
Aoife said, well, I hardly ever go to them. And I was thinking, I haven't been to a industry show, a good one, since really college. And so it's what's interesting to me is some of us go a lot. Some of us don't really do it at all. So let me just ask this, Aoife, why have you not been to many shows in the past decade?
I probably would have been at a whole lot more if my husband hadn't got me pregnant. I used to go to a lot of shows, a lot of the London-based shows, a lot of wine shows, as well as the full-on bar spirit cocktail shows. Probably about a 50-50 split between wine and spirits. And then you have, like, the super ones that have everything combined. I used to use them as, days out for educating my managers, when I worked multi-sites. So I used to take the managers for the day out at the show, yeah, to get them up in their knowledge of the product knowledge and, and different operational side talks and educational things that would have gone on as well too. I would have signed them up, and used it as an away day educational day for managers. But yeah, I moved out of multi-site operations and moved to the countryside. That's probably my excuse for not being at them so much.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense, right? There's a lot of logic to why you're saying you haven't been to shows. Now, Cliff, I know you've owned bars for what, 10 years now, something like that?
Yep.
And you went to your first show last year. So what made you say, after 9 years of not going to industry conferences and shows, saying, "Okay, I wanna go to one?"
Yeah, somebody asked me to go to a show. I mean, no one ever asked me before. So I've been to a couple of trade shows. Different distributors will have a pretty large event in Atlanta, and that's always a blast. But that's basically just a whole bunch of bottles of alcohol and, drinking and kind of networking. But a real show like Tales of the Cocktail was a blast. I had a fantastic time. So now I'm kind of looking for shows to go to. So I'm hooked. But I do want, my last career, I would go to trade shows and we learn a little bit about the industry, continuing education, some networking. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for again. But, you go to New Orleans, you're gonna have a good time even if there's no show. So, yeah.
And I think that that last comment you made, even if there's no show, that's probably why I have not been to one really since college. Because what I found when I was going to some, and I went to a few after I had my bar, was that they were these big events where it was mostly paid for by liquor distributors, where most of it was just people trying to advertise to me, with a limited amount of like educational or continuing education type stuff going on. And I didn't see any reason to pay to get advertised to. Like, I'm a little cheap, and that just did not fit with my mindset. But I also think that I'm probably wrong, right? I wanna give Dave and Meenakshi, I wanna give you guys a chance because you guys speak at conferences, and Meenakshi, you run one, to tell me why I'm wrong, because I feel like maybe I'm just off here. Meenakshi, do you wanna kinda talk about your
No,
show, what
so
you guys do, and how it's different than what my is in my head?
yeah. No, so before we, talk about our show, which is the India Bartender Show, I want to talk to you about the first time that I went to a show and what I experienced. And I feel like I think that really changes the game. Like from what you hear from Cliff and what I hear from you is that, your first experience maybe wasn't something that you were too excited about. And I feel like I went to for the first time I went to Ethan's Bar Show. Then after that I went to Tales of the Cocktail. And both the shows back to back were shows which were very, very grounded in education. They were very, very grounded in skill building. They were very, very grounded in things that are happening today in the industry. So they were talking about today and they were also future gazing. I met a lot of people who were really, I don't know how else to put it, but movers and shakers in today's industry, right? So a whole lot of that was not about networking necessarily, but also finding people and getting to kind of dig into their brains a little bit to find out what are they thinking, like what are they talking about today and where do they see this industry moving towards. Right after that I went to the BKK Bar Show, which was the Bangkok Bar Show, then the KL Cocktail Week. So every show that I went to, I feel like I came back more excited, more interested in my own industry, and also just small. I would pick up things like you go for bar hops in the evening, in the daytime you do something else, in the daytime you're attending sessions, and every time you would go there you would see, okay, this is the kind of new thing that they're using right now in the bar, right? This is the kind of technique which is being used in the bar. This is how the bartender is engaging with the guests. You come back and you talk to your team and your staff about the same thing. You also engage your own team into that, and next time you take your own team members out for these shows, and that kind of makes your entire game year on year going up and actually leveling up to what is happening in the global bar scene. So I feel like I have a lot of credit to give to these bar shows for the position we gained in the few years when we started Sidecar, because it really instantly gave me an edge over other bars in India which were not really going out and seeing what a London is doing and what a New York is doing, or what is happening in Bangkok and what is Singapore up to, right? So I think that that's what happened, and for me that is one of my biggest learnings, right? It's also obviously about having fun, having a great time, meeting a lot of people, getting a lot of drinks. But at the end of it, for me, I think it's the sessions in the daytime and the networking at that time which really matters.
I
Yeah.
suppose,
So
I suppose, actually, it's a bit like R&D. It's research and development. Basically, you can use them as a ground for research and development for global
absolutely.
trade.
Absolutely. It's the kind of mindset you go to. You could be a very young bartender just going to meet your idols. Sometimes, I mean, we've seen that a lot happening. Like, we had Eric Lawrence coming from London and we had a queue of people, young bartenders who wanted to get a signature from him because he's a global figure. He's a whole lot of things, in the global bar scene. He's a bar owner, started off as a bartender. A lot of people really look up to him and he's just cool, suave. He's got the personality which really fits into, what the younger bartenders are looking for. And because we invited him, we actually realized that you need these tent poles, you need these faces to get the younger generation obviously excited, because this is their influence, this is their, Bad Bunny or Lady Gaga, right? So that's what we need them in the shows as well. So I think that's how you're able to mix the R&D and education and this part as well together.
So what's interesting to me,
Dave.
Meenakshi, is what you're describing is quite a bit different than what I feel like I was exposed to a lot, which was kind of advertising shows. And I know, Dave, you speak at a lot of shows, and if I'm not mistaken, we've had a conversation before. You have an opinion about shows that are good and shows that aren't based upon kind of how they're what they're doing. Um, do you want to get into that a little bit?
Maybe a little bit. Not a lot of bit. Look, I think the whole scene's become a lot more progressive. I think what you described was absolutely true. And look, I wasn't around for it, so I'm going off of a lot of secondhand stuff. 15 years ago, these were big boondoggles. It was an excuse to get together, and the novelty of being an independent, say, bar and restaurant owner, bartender, manager, the novelty of being able to, socialize with other like-minded people was so unique and so rare that it was just a big celebration, and that led to all sorts of things because you have a lot of people that really know how to drink. About
Okay.
10 years, that had a cycle, and then I think people started to contemplate, "Hey, look, we're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table here, like, a lot of us are drinking, lamenting the struggles that we're in. Wouldn't this be a great place to learn how to deal with those struggles, whether you get talks at these places about mental health, you get talks about profitability, you get talks about staffing and people, environmental stuff, like there's just it's unimaginable the gamut of information that you can get. I still think it over indexes a little on the alcohol, but that's where the money's coming from, so it sorta has to, and there's a whole charm in watching you could do a whole master class on marketing if you just walked around and just look and see how people are promoting their products, how they're trying to attract people, what the brand image that they're creating is incredible. The stories they tell is fascinating. So I think these shows, the larger ones have now hired education directors, which I think is a brilliant move. And those folks spend the entire year figuring out what's the theme of the show going to be, who do we want to bring in, what are the topics of the day, what are people struggling with, how do we address those. So, best I can tell, these shows have come light years. And I saw something other quick note. I saw, because I see shows like ours and other things and I saw someone saying, "Hey, there's too many shows." I don't know that that's possible. I think these shows, I don't know that you can say, "Hey, there's too much education, there's too many opportunities to mingle and get together, there's too many opportunities to learn." I think it's great, and I think that this industry from that perspective is dramatically underserved, so I don't think there can be enough shows, and then let the best shows
Yeah,
win, the ones that can provide the most amazing content and help people the very best. Let
yeah,
them thrive and then let everyone else learn from them and lift the industry up. So that's
yeah.
sort of the, Pollyanna view, I guess, of how I see shows.
When you say there's too many shows, I feel people who are saying that probably are coming from a lot of privilege. They are going to a lot of shows, they are attending a lot of these things, they're getting invited to a lot of them, and
Mhm,
why probably their calendars are packed. But
mhm,
overall, like from a generics area point of view, like we are sitting in India and there's another show happening in Bangkok, we might just have 5 Indians attending the show. The rest of them are not. So for you to say that there's a lot of shows could be because, that person is obviously very, very privileged.
mhm. I agree with that.
Well, and I also think there's when you have an industry based around kind of what Dave was talking about of the way things used to be with shows, where it was just a big party. To go to a bunch of parties is really hard. To go to a bunch of educational lectures is not, right? And so the more professional the shows are, the more you're there for the education and not the drinking at night, the easier it is to go to more of them.
Yeah.
I did a cool thing 2 years ago with one of the big shows. I can probably say the name, but I just won't. And, another interesting thing, and Meenakshi can speak on this, is a lot of the shows, despite the amount of money that'll come in, I don't know what anyone's books look like. These are my assumptions. A lot they're funded by the spirits companies and that sort of thing, but they're still expensive to put on. So they will use industry folks, folks like me. People get desperate, like Meenakshi gets desperate and says, "Dave, will you please come to India and speak? We need somebody." So I go and I do the best I can. But look, I coach public speakers and, I've been in on, I've done this and I put a lot of work into it and I am there to work. It's a job for me. I mean, I love it, but I'm there to work. But we'll pull a lot of industry folks in. I see this all the time, Chris. Pull industry folks on, throw them on the stage and say, "Give me a speech on this." and they're passionate about doing it, but they've never been on stage. They don't know how to deliver a talk. And then something that could be an incredible message just kind of gets lost in the effort. Now, sometimes that's not true. Sometimes people absolutely are just natural talented speakers and they're incredible. But as this evolves, I mean, there are continue to be opportunities. One is, hey, we need to do a better job of supporting the people that we put on stage, that we throw to the lions, because it can be a little nerve-wracking to walk out of that marketing. And they're all different, but I think Cliff and I were at the Ritz for Tales, and the whole thing is just like, oh my God. And then next thing you know, you're in a room on a stage, or you're on the main stage at BCB, and it's like, holy cow, this is being filmed live in front of the whole world. Here you go, have at it, do a good job. So I also, from that perspective, I think we owe a little more support to the folks that we throw to the lions on those stages. And a lot of people do a great job, but I do think that they're under-supported, but that's part of the natural evolution of what's happening. And again, it's all wonderful. Fix one
Yeah.
problem, create another. Fix one problem, create another. Fix one problem, create another.
I'd say most of the bigger bar shows which are education led, not necessarily product led, or what Chris was talking about, the show where there's a lot of brand visibility only, where you move booth to booths like trade shows. I'm not talking about those shows. We're talking about the bar shows which are education seminar. So you should, as an attendee or somebody who's potentially wants to attend, should see what all is happening in the show for yourself, and see, this is your sort of, this is something you want to learn about, you want to know more about. But most of these bigger shows have now education committees. So like, I have been in the education committee for Tales for 3 years now. This is the 4th year, and I have judged about 250 seminars, and our deadlines, like our crazy deadlines. And we went through the shows. You find out who the speakers are, you find out who the panelists are, you also see their history, how good they are. There's also opportunity to speak to them before you put them on stage. We also have a second round of interviews with them. You actually see their mock PPTs. You actually give some pointers during that time. So there's a proper hand-holding period that a show like Tales gives you, right? Because they have this committee which they have assembled together from global talent. Again, we are doing this all, pro bono right now. So this is as being part of the education committee. We are not getting a fee for this, but what this is really doing for me is that I'm getting to see the kind of seminars, sessions, workshops that our people are submitting, and what kind of conversations are happening in the global bar world, right? Which is really unique and very interesting insight to what I get to see, as this is part of the learning that I feel like I'm investing in myself. That's how I see my pro bono work for the Tales Committee. And one of the first things that we did when we formed the India Bartender Show again was somewhere on the lines that we will have to obviously handhold, but we cannot afford a committee right now. So we will make sure that we bring subject matter experts who are known to have done at least a few shows and they know how to conduct themselves on stage. Hopefully, Dave, you'll do a good job.
It's 50-50 with me.
So yeah, I mean that's where we are, because we are a very young show. I mean, Tales is 21 years old. Athens is 8 years old. Roma, BCB, these are shows which have been around for a while. So they have obviously graduated to a better level of understanding the needs of the show itself. So yeah, we are learning as we're going as well. So
When is the India show?
this is in Feb 26th.
Couple weeks.
Give me an example of some of the education that I think you feel like just knocks it out of the park, like somebody that there's always a line to get into.
Well, there are many. There are many. Last year itself, we saw a lot of interest in indigenous spirits. So there's a lot of interest in spirits from Mexico. It doesn't have to be only, like, we are talking about a lot about agave and tequila, but there's also a whole lot of other South American spirits that don't have, or people don't know about, which are getting produced. There are talks on mental health and supporting teams. A lot of current issues which are relating to our industry is retention, team building, motivation. So a bunch of topics from coaches and people who are doing this wonderfully with their own teams. A lot of the talks at Tales are happening from people who've been there, done that. That is one of the things which kind of works for the show as well, because a lot of people are either operators themselves or have been operators or are currently facing problems in the current scenario. So that, I feel like, helps define the show's credibility in the world right now as well. So I mean, people would like to talk to someone like, Cliff, you're going through something and you are dealing with the problems as we speak. So I would like to hear from you, how you're dealing with it, right? So I think that those conversations are very relevant and very, very real. Yeah, I mean, my God, I will have to go through all the sessions in my head,
Yeah,
but
there's
there are quite a few.
Sounds amazing.
Cliff, you wanna talk about how, certain sessions were so full at the event you went to that you couldn't get in?
I can't really remember exactly which ones were full or not. I just remember waiting in line and not getting in. But I just go get another drink.
So that was the really I was with Cliff when that happened, and the good news was it was an educational event, and, we were at this huge hotel, and the room hit capacity, and there was probably still 50 more people that wanted to get in. So
That's fantastic.
that's a good, bad story. The good news is I think more and more people are hewing towards what Meenakshi is saying, is they want that content. The bad news is some of the rooms don't hold, like, outgrowing the space that you're in, logistically. So, it's good to see that these educational events are drawing a crowd because the truth is the industry is only getting harder, it's not getting easier, and I think a lot of the draw on in terms of profitability and revenue, Chris, you may have opinions on this, doesn't necessarily have to do with spirit mix, not that we don't want, again, the spirits companies there, but it really has to do with people and profitability and these different things that Meenakshi was talking about, and to hear from people who content experts, whether they've lived it or whether they know it and that sort of thing, those conversations really matter, and there's not many places you can go to get them, and I think we're just seeing that come true at these
Yeah.
shows, which, again, is wonderful.
And another amazing thing, Cliff, that you see is that there is no gatekeeping happening anymore, and that is something which is a very current last 5 to 10 years move that the industry has had, which is it's become very open to information sharing, very open to even technical information sharing. Things like how do you get the proper radiation in a cocktail? What do you do to balance your acidity? Which are the new age garnishes? So things like that, which actually the younger and the bartenders who are actually in the bar right now and working are very, very interested in seeing. So those are the sessions which are actually you going fully houseful, and it's very nice to see that there are experts who'll come and share with you how do you balance the aeration and why are certain drinks working with this particular ingredient and why some are not. Sessions on minerality, sessions on enzymes, so whole lot of educational seminars which have nothing to do with environment but actually to do with technical skills. So a lot of technical upgrade and skill upgradation sessions are also very much in demand.
Yeah, and I can see that, but on the flip side, I can also see, most of my managers have come up through the ranks, even from being barbacks. And so, at that point, their technical skills, well, they know how to make a few cocktails, but do they know how to manage a team? Do they know how to manage conflict? Other let's say corporate responsibilities, the business side, not just the technical side. So totally understand there's a balance there. Dave can contest to this. When I went to Tails, I was struck by how many young people were there. And you can tell that they were the frontline bartending crew. They were, they were in the pit, and there were less of me and Dave there than they were of the 20-year-old, 30-year-old tatted up bartender, the studs. So I think those guys need to know some business acumen, and I was pleased to see some of that at Tails. I felt like for me, I would have liked to have seen some more things about operations and profitability and how to become efficient, things, the business side of it. But for the bartender, maybe step out of learning how to mix a cocktail and what y'all are also talking about is how to lead a team. So I think there's a big opportunity for these bartenders to know how to manage.
Absolutely.
You know what else you know what my favorite part of Tales is, Chris? Here's a plug coming for you.
All right.
Tales has a bookstore.
Yeah.
Alright, how's that? So, Meenakshi and Cliff said, "Look, what I think the coolest thing at Tales is they take a dedicated room, a big room, and they fill it full of books." And I
Books
will
and
tell
bitters.
you what's that?
It's called books and bitters.
Yeah, books and bitters. Thank you, Meenakshi.
Yeah.
And, they fill it full of books, and you might think, uh, Does anyone go to a bookstore at Tales? Oh, yeah. Like, it is a nonstop line rotating through there, and it's a wonderful opportunity if you have a book or something. Like, I think one of the most terrifying moments of my entire professional career, which spans, like, a lot of stuff, was walking into Tales for the first time by myself. First, I think my first ever industry event. And, they sit you at a table outside the bookstore right in the middle of the, hallway, and you sit there with your books and just watch people go by and ignore you and not care about your book, right? And you're
Did
like,
they keep
"What?"
asking you where the toilet is?
Yeah, yeah. That's my expertise.
Which way is the washroom?
Yeah, it's like, but not so that is, look, that for me was that look, throw yourselves into those situations, you'll be better for it, maybe, I don't know, but anyway, Chris and I have a little bet on the line, we're gonna try to go this year and sit out there and do a book signing and, buy each other a cocktail based on who sells the most books,
No,
but,
that will
again, that's just a really super cool feature that happens at Tales, and if anyone who's doing an event around the world, like when I would say, "Hey, look, if you can get books into your event and do a little mini bookstore, even if it's makeshift, it's really cool to expose people to all types of learning." And I just thought that I just think that the fact they do that is one of the coolest things. Sidebar and plug because Chris has a new book out and I have a new book out.
Well, and Dave has a new book out
Yeah,
too.
yeah. We're working here. We're
Dave's
working here.
book is called A Tale of Two Taverns. Mine is Menus That Sell, and we'll talk about those more right before we end the show because we are definitely pushing those, Dave.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
It's good to have something tangible to walk away from a show from as well too,
Mhm,
it's all to have actual merch rather than just a hangover.
mhm.
yeah, they also have, yeah, the merch store is also nice. So a whole
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
merch. Nice.
I'm counting on a T-shirt, Meenakshi.
Yes, you're getting one t-shirt.
I'm
One.
doing
One, that's
I'm
fine.
doing a project at the minute. I'm doing a project with a bar group at the minute, and their staff T-shirts are so cool. I've been trying for the past 5 months to get like a staff T-shirt. I'm like, please can I have one of your staff T-shirts? Because 'Cause they're so cool." So, yeah, definitely all about the merch, and the bar industry is so cool. I'm sorry, we've got cool shit. So, like, and there's all that education as well too, on the equipment and, on the creation and yeah, the
I have my Tales of the
ingenuity of
Cocktail
things
shirt
as well.
on. So what else, Chris? You gonna go to a show now if we convinced you?
You know, you have convinced me, let alone the fact that I have to beat you at a book signing
Wow, that's true.
event at Tales. I mean, we have thrown that out there. But I think it's really interesting. And one thing that I think I noticed, Dave, in what you said, and then Meenakshi in what you said, is this push more towards education. Because when I think back to shows I went to in the past, there was not a Meenakshi, I think you're very right to point out, people in this industry share more than they used to. Because it used to feel a lot like everybody was gatekeeping. Whether it was the bartenders gatekeeping on acidity and how to manipulate acidity in a cocktail, or it was the bar owners being cagey about how they make money, right? I mean, I don't know how many bar owners I've talked to over the years where, especially when I was a bar owner, you'd sit down with them, "How you doing?" "How are you doing?" And that's all we did, right? We just kinda made a face, said we weren't doing that well, moved on with our lives, and never shared anything.
That's right.
And I don't think that necessarily helped anyone. But I also like where Cliff is coming from because I think he's right, where we had kind of cocktail focused shows and then we have more of this cocktail education. It seems to me from the outside, so I could be totally wrong, but it seems to me like in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a big push towards more the business education side of things versus just how do we have a great customer experience? How do we have great cocktails? But almost like we've matured past product into here's the back office side. And I see more and more of that in the being talked about, whether it's speakers at shows or podcasts or what have you.
Yeah, let me throw something in there real quick. I went to a local city merchants meeting yesterday morning, and we're in all these main street towns, so there's all these merchants, and everybody is screaming and yelling about parking or whatever. But the cops, the police department were there, and they were talking about different issues and how they patrol and how they have a couple of foot soldiers, walking around at night, and and that so there's another element to being in a bar is the whole safety concern. How do you deal with an irate customer? How do you deal with someone that brings a gun? I know we don't have that problem in Europe and all that, but here, I mean, it happens. How do you deal with someone throwing a drink at another person? That's important. And I actually, since I've been in the business for 10 years, I'm not afraid of calling the police at all, right at the onset of anything happening. Any kind of spider sense, I want the crew to go ahead and call 911. But I asked the cops, I said, "Can you tell everybody here that you do not have to be afraid to call 911. It's better to do it and have the cops come out and it to be nothing versus having the cops come out and there's something already happened." So that's another element of the whole bar business. When at Tails, there was nothing to that. There was nothing about, my God, if you're giving everybody alcohol, you got to learn how to manage the bar. So to me, again, I love the cocktail craft, but there's a whole side of this business that's scary, including the mental health. And so I think what's cool is that there's so much runway left for these shows to keep going in the direction of being kind of a master class and almost a continuing education of just different facets of the business. So I think there's untapped potential here, just waiting to be had at these conventions.
And I think, Cliff, what you just said to me, I was just thinking this because Meenakshi owns very, very nice bars. I doubt anyone at her very nice bars has pulled out knives and guns and threatened to shoot people and stab people and all that. I own neighborhood dive bars. I've seen guns, I've seen knives, I've seen fist fights. Like that was just a Tuesday,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so there's also this thing about different bars have totally different issues. Because I would definitely go to a seminar on what to do when the drunk dude pulls out a 9 millimeter,
Yeah,
because it's happened to me before.
yeah.
I don't know that Meenakshi would ever even think about what to do if a drunk dude pulls out a 9 millimeter, because her bars are too nice. She's in a country that doesn't have guns.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like when these shows are positioned for global audience, usually if there are any regional issues like this, and of course there are many more, I feel like nobody's ever come up with these topics, or maybe they have and I don't know about it. I mean, these are shows that have been around for a while, and I mean, maybe these topics do. I mean, definitely managing people, the soft end of things, managing crowd. It's not only about the security and the guns bit, but also the rest of it. Situation handling is a real part of the deal, a real part of the what our KRA is on day to day, right? So I think, yeah. There must have been some sessions, or if not, then hopefully someone will. Why don't you send something, Cliff? You can send us a seminar option.
I'm sure I've been to the bar show in London and I've been to like sessions, your original point, Cliff, of like the economics of a drink, and, educational seminars, explaining to the bartenders that are there for their jolly how much of that drink is actually profit and how much, when they're coming up with the creation of the drinks, how to do that properly and how to do that so that I've definitely in the past been to seminars like that. Um, but I find all of that quite fascinating because I'm operations, getting down to the pennies and the pound for how much lime juice to how much the garnish costs to then marking it up to how much it can be sold for so that, the bar doesn't go out of business. That's my favorite topics.
Yeah. No, for sure. Profitability is very much part of the game. In fact, one of the pillars of education is culture, business. You actually have different subsects within the education committee. So, business has actually been looked
Yeah.
after about five different bar owners from all over the country. So, all over the world, actually. So, the business is like there are sessions just on business, which are bar business, profitability, drink profitability, manpower, building solid, business plans, all of that.
You need to get the Atlanta police to do the bar shows and do the seminars on 9 millimeter.
Well, even without guns, fist fights happen. I mean, surely
Yeah.
surely fist fights happen. So it's just, and so yeah, then there is the, how to teach the bartenders to not overserve, how to teach the bartenders to cool somebody off, conflict resolution, so we all know how to serve a drink. Do we know how to not serve a drink?
Well, and just real quick to slide in here, as a quick plug, if you need help on compliance, get a hold of Cliff. He has a company called Stinger Compliance that kind of does this stuff. Um, But anyway, sorry, just wanted to interject that real quick.
That's okay.
Dave, you've been quiet. What are you thinking?
No, I'm listening. I think this is a wonderful conversation. I think these shows really matter. Obviously, I think education matters. In my mind, I'm just sort of when I've said this before, when I first came to the industry, I was just blown away by how much responsibility falls to the bar owner, restaurant owner, and they don't have a team around them. I was used to having just hundreds of people at my beck and call. If I needed something, that became someone else's priority for the whole day. And then when I came into this industry, I'd meet a bar owner and I'm like, who does your books? I do. Who goes to the bank? I do. Who does the meeting? I do. Who steps in with the bartenders off? I do. Who cleans the tables? I do. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. So I think the healthier that we can make this industry, and I don't think there's one solution. I like the coming together of people. I like the idea of producing a world-class content that folks can decide what's important to them, go back and apply it in their markets to their venues, and hopefully make themselves a little bit better. Like I said at the outset, I don't think we can do enough of that. More, please. And just like with bars and restaurants and that sort of thing, the best shows will rise. And I do think the content needs to continue to diversify. To Cliff's point, like you could go to a show and you could go to a really big show and look at a lineup and see nothing about profit. You can do that because I do that. I look and I'm like, what's the lineup? And there's nothing about profitability. I was coaching a group recently and they didn't want to have any elements of profitability in their culture statement. I was like, well, how do you give back to your team? How do you give back to your guests? How do you give back to your community if you don't make money? Like, I'm not trying to say money's everything, but you do need to pay your bills. And also it leads to the mental health stuff. I mean, money doesn't make you mentally well per se, but it sure as hell helps. If I can pay the bills, it's a stressor for sure. So I still like to see more about best practices relative to running the business. I do a lot on the people side. I think that's a massive opportunity right now. I think these should be incredible careers. I don't know that we talk enough about the career pathing for people in the industry. So I still think there's gaps, around people and profits, but I think the shows are doing infinitely better than what it seemed to be. And they're on the move. It's not like it's stagnating. I see it on the move and I see more people writing books. So all this is good to me. I like all of it. I'm concerned that it's getting more and more challenging at the same time. Like it's sort of born of necessity. I'm seeing too many people go out of business that shouldn't be, or selling out of desperation that I don't want to see. That's kind of what's running through my head. If you ask Chris, that's what's spinning around in there while the conversation's going on.
Yeah, I
So
feel like if the bar show is solving a problem for you, it's something you should go and attend, and you should look for what are your current issues, right? It could be a junior person just entering the industry. It could be someone who's been around for 30 years and doesn't know anything about the rotovap or doesn't know how the centrifuge works. So there's a lot of the senior industry members that we meet right now who are not in touch with tech anymore. We have a topic, for example, on AI, right? AI into your world. And it's amazing that we have this person from Dubai. He's a lecturer on AI and he's actually talking on hospitality in AI as one of the sessions. I immediately know the number of pre-registrations that are going up because this is not a well-known star person, but this is a topic which is so relevant in today's time. This will save me time. How does this save me time? Like, I don't know the prompts. I don't know how am I supposed to use, the various apps that are there at my disposal right now. So I feel like if it is something, and at every level in your industry, you will have a problem in front of you that you need solving for. And I think these bar shows typically will be trying to answer that. If, in all honesty, if they're just getting you drunk and just showing you a good time, that's also not bad if you do want to do that for yourself. But that maybe is not your, that's been there, done that, right? So we've all had our bar hops and done that. But if it's not solving a problem for me, or at least showing me the direction, making me meet the right people, network with the people who are actually is someone who can help me find the way, then maybe that's not, you don't need to attend the show for just that. So I think that, yeah, because it's an investment at the end of it, right? It's either investment of time, or you travel, or your company's sending you out there. Either way, somebody's spending money to get you there. So yeah, you should look at that from that lens.
that's right.
So here's a question for you guys, because you've done a good job of convincing me I should actually go to shows again. But there are only what, like 100 of them all over the world?
There's a lot.
If you're somebody that hasn't gone to a lot of shows, how do you pick the right show to go to?
I would think that you would go to the closest of your geography first and look at that, like, which is you are sitting in the US, you have the biggest show actually in in your country. So maybe start from there and then think about moving towards Asia and other places, Europe. I would definitely think BCB is a great show for a lot of reasons. Dave can add to that. You know, he's been a speaker. I got an opportunity to speak in BCB 2019, which was fabulous. So yeah, I mean, if you can start with where you can get yourself fastest and cheapest.
There's lots of different shows too, so do a little homework. So, for example, Tales of the Cocktail is this it is a pretty dope show in New Orleans, and it's definitely alcohol and cocktail forward, but there's a lot of restaurants out there that have bars that are, more food forward, that sort of thing, and the NRA has the National Restaurant Association has a huge show in Chicago. There's a big show in, Las Vegas. There's shows in New York, so I think that's what I was gonna say too, Meenakshi, is start local or regional, something that's easy to go to, but know that these shows are also all very different, so find the one that most resembles the types of things, that reflect your business. If certainly if you're in the cocktail culture, Tales is the one, but there's a lot of really good shows out there, BCB in Brooklyn, the Vegas show, bar and restaurant is a huge show. So there's a lot of good shows out there, and there's also a lot of business shows. So I did the US business show in Miami, and you don't that applies to everybody. So it isn't even just hospitality shows, but business shows, sometimes those are even better because the asymmetrical learning can be great. They're talking about things in a way that we're not even thinking about. So lots of, different things that you can do, Chris, in my opinion.
The last show that I was at was the Hospitality Tech Expo, and I look at that for fun, the tech show.
That's commitment, Eva.
I tell you, that is commitment. As we were going into the show, was the XL in London, which is huge, just a huge exhibition center. So there was lots of shows happening at the same time. And we walked into the wrong show, and the show next door was the international drone show. I mean, there's shows.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the big convention centers will have multiple shows going on at the same
Multiple at
time,
the
which
same
is yeah,
time.
that
But do
that'll
you know what?
that'll throw you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Hospitality Tech Expo was actually really interesting,
Mhm.
so, like, in terms of all the operational stuff that you're talking about, Cliff, like, going to one specifically for operational tech, your POS, your PDQs, the AI, like, all of that that can help with, time, education, and making your businesses run really smoothly. The tech expos are quite interesting as well.
A cool thing you can do too, Chris, as let's say a business owner, and let's just this isn't true, but let's say Cliff says, "Bah humbug, I don't wanna go to a show." But you know what? I wouldn't mind sending my team to a show, and you let it be a whole, sort of rewards opportunity. Say, I'm gonna to the best bar manager, best bar team, whatever it is, I'm gonna send you guys to Tails. It's not just a big boondoggle. I want you to come back with the 5 things that you learned that you think could really apply to truck and tap, and I want you to teach it out, right? I want you to learn, and I want you to teach, report back to everyone. So you can create a bit of a competition for something like this, which is good for your business, and then reward people, good for the business, send people, good for the business. They learn something, good, and come back and then learn how to report back. It all becomes this great rewards and developmental type of opportunity. So there's a lot of different ways you can use a show as a resource to the business beyond just the obvious point and shoot, I go, I learn, I come back. You can also use it as motivating factors for people, which can be really, really cool. There's just a lot you can do.
Well, I think you learn that, at least the kids, and even I did, at my old age, I learned that I'm part of an industry, a vibrant industry that's that to this world. And so I think a lot of these kids, they just clock in, clock out, and they don't really realize that they're part of, a culture that's been around for hundreds of years, if not thousands of,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
creating some kind of spirit. So I think that's important because it gives them will give them a sense of purpose and some camaraderie and some energy to move forward past whatever it is, that groundhog day of just clocking in and clocking out.
Mhm.
So it's inspiring, I think, for a lot of the younger kids, and even for me, it was inspiring. So, I think again, I think it's an untapped resource, and there's a lot of runway left for these conventions. So, I mean, I'm a fan, so I'll see what I can do about getting some of the kids over there this year.
Good idea.
No,
They
it's
might not make it
fantastic.
to India this year, but maybe next year.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I'm going to send you the links as
Yeah,
soon as we go
right. I get
live.
you up on my web.
Thank you. No, so we actually have, Cliff was such a good point that, we last year when we launched the show for the first time, we actually gave away scholarships to 100 kids who were under, 5 years of experience into the industry who couldn't afford to come. So they actually sent us applications and we looked through, we got about 250 to 75 applicants who sent us their why we should give you the grant. And this grant was given to 100 kids, and this year as well the grant has gone out. And one of the first things that we heard from everybody was like, the fact that the show is actually wanting for you to come together, because there's a lot of, so geography does play a big role in this, right? So when you're living in a big city with a lot of vibrant nightlife culture, you're going to each other's bars, you are very much part of something which is moving. But I think in a lot of smaller cities, you do feel very isolated. When you're talking about, even as an owner and an operator, sometimes you feel very isolated in that space. And the fact that a lot of people get together for those few days, they just don't share, shared experiences like really brings people together. But they also like really, constantly are in touch. There's other friendships which are formed forever. And you can see the exchanges and things happening throughout the year because of these shows. I met a few people at Tails. I've invited them to India Bartender Show. I got invited to Cocktail Fiesta in Philippines because I went to another show. This is how a lot of talent exchange and information is also happening. So these people who are attending shows are also going to other shows because they're getting invited by those people, right? Because they want to hear my side of the story. So I feel like that is really the true exchange that is going on as part of as an overall getting together.
So, Dave, you have a book?
I'm embarrassed to tell you, I don't have a copy of it yet. Like, it's out there
Dave, you
selling, and
should be like, you should be putting it out there.
I have 3 of them.
have they
They're
showed up
out.
for you? Have they showed I see, I
Yeah.
get author Chris and I get author copies because so that those are the copies you get that are essentially at cost, and they just, and Amazon ships them to you. But they're like, "We'll get them to you when we get them to you." And stupid me didn't spend, like, the $15 to buy my own book, which I should have, and got it, the next
Yeah.
day. And then I let that go a couple days. Now I'm like, "Well, the other books are gonna be here, so I have no," so the moral of the story, I have no book, but I have Chris's book. So I went out and I bought Chris's book, and I didn't even buy my own book. So, yeah, do you have it? Do you have one already?
Of
Yeah,
your book?
I read it during, or read about 27 pages during lunch yesterday, which took me back to actually reading something while I'm eating instead of looking at my phone. So yeah, it was, yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm pushing through it.
Cool, cool.
Yeah,
Well,
so
pushing through it, that's not what I can't wait to see the next page is what we say, Cliff. Like, it's a page turner is what we say.
I push through everything I read.
Don't leave that as your Amazon review, Cliff. Poor
I
Dave.
forced myself to get to the end. It was
I know.
kinda okay. If anyone wonders if this is scripted, yeah, that wouldn't be the plug that I would have written, but let's go.
Yeah, that will be in the review, pushing through.
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's awesome.
Congratulations, Dave. Third book. Well done, you.
Yeah, 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 and look,
Yeah.
Chris on his second. Let's not look, Chris, I'm really pushing through your book too. I just want you to
I know
know
it's so difficult.
I'm trying my best, man. I'm doing
Well,
whatever I can.
Use
but
an
let's be
original
honest here.
one. You need an original one.
But
Dave's book is like a really nice story. It's a fable, right? It has all this narrative to it. My book is like, these are the different types of menus. This is how money works. This is how you do math. So if you're gonna get through a book that's easy, it's Dave's. If you're gonna push through a book, it's definitely mine.
Well, that's not true. You learn something. Look, we can go back and forth and have like a love affair about it. I learned something in the first chapter already on Chris's book, which is like the different types of menus actually have names to them. And I was like, I don't know any of this stuff. So I think that's
Maybe
really
we should
cool.
do the next episode should be about your hospitality books. Like everybody picks up a book and kind of
Like,
I don't want to be so
or
self-serving. That's, I don't want to be on here doing an
not your
infomercial.
own, Dave, someone else's.
Meenakshi,
Someone
I
Someone
else.
else,
think
oh
you
yeah,
should.
that'd be cool.
I think Meenakshi should write it. I think you. I'm surprised you don't have a book like a
Yeah.
nice table, like a cookbook, but liquid cooking, and the whole your
Nice.
whole backstory of how you started in the bar industry. I would definitely buy that book. Lovely. Like how they
Oh,
do the cookbooks now. Nice big hardback, gorgeous photography with your
Well, and
drinks and
Meenakshi,
story.
telling you not
what
telling you to
fun.
copy anybody, but if you look behind Dave, there's a copy of Cocktail Codex, which is kind of exactly the book that Aoife is talking about. If you look behind me, there's a copy of it too. And so,
There it is.
I have the codex. Yes, I have the book.
yeah,
But yeah, no,
you
absolutely. If
could
I
do
like,
one like that.
which I
And if
have
you
to, I
did,
have
I would definitely buy a copy.
2026.
Yeah, definitely. 100% buy that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, but
Yeah.
before that, we need to buy Dave's and Chris's.
Yeah, we have to buy
Yeah,
that exist first.
they exist. We just don't get copies quickly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? It's like Dave's book is coming to me today. My book will be here a week from today. Dave's already reading my book. His books aren't showing up till the end of the week. Like, it's just when you order the author copies, they take forever.
Mhm.
Or you get what I have behind me, which is a copy, but it has like a gray line across it. There, if you can kind of see it, that is the proof not for sale, do not sell this, not retail disclaimer.
Yeah, it's, putting your name to something or put for somehow like, we could get on here and riff and just have fun and, talk about things and not worry too much about what we say, or maybe the opinion was a little off, and maybe afterwards you go, "I wish I woulda said that different," or something like that. But when it comes to the written word and you put it in print, somehow that becomes so much more official, and you agonize so much more over every little detail when you put it in print, and it seems to get it and it also gets a very different level of scrutiny when you
Mhm.
put it in. It's just interesting, the dynamic, between, all the different forms of communication, whether it's a speech or it's a podcast or it's a book, the way they're scrutinized and thought about are all, intensely different. The editing is what's, for me, is like, the most tedious part. You can get your ideas on paper and that can be fun and you can get them to make some sense and that's fun. But then when you're editing for like the sixth time, you're like, my God, make it end. And then at some point, you just like, I don't care if there's too many commas, just print it, send it out, and see if anyone notices. But yeah, it can be if you do decide that you want to take on Meenakshi, if you ever want to take the book stuff is it takes time and then you pour your heart into it and then you're not going to
You
make a
just
lot.
sold it to me. You just sold it to me.
Look, you don't make a lot of money writing books either, is the thing. Like
Yeah.
you can create this incredible thing and it really is just in a lot of ways it's collateral.
Mhm.
And
I heard it from someone who's an author who said that books are a way of it's a person's vanity basically on paper. So somewhere there's some bit of vanity, which is why you do this. Is it a vanity project for you?
is that what you're asking?
Yeah, was it?
I don't know that that's true for me. I don't necessarily seek the attention, love. Probably like the way you love bars and cocktails. I love coaching. I love helping people. It's what I do. So it's sort of folds into my career really well and my passion. And sometimes in this industry, because I never thought I couldn't even imagine this for myself. And I don't even, right? So sometimes it's hard if you're a bit of an individual contributor like me to get the word out about how you want to help people and here's what I do and maybe you'll find this useful. I totally understand because I work with speakers and authors about the vanity project thing. There's probably some truth to it,
Okay.
but for me, I think I enjoy the idea of getting concepts and things out there that people can find useful. Like I told you about the terrifying experience of sitting there at Tails and just wondering if anyone would stop. That is why would anyone put themselves through that? But when someone does stop and say, "Hey, your book changed my life," that makes like that makes everything worth it, and, I don't know if that's vanity. Maybe it is, but that's I mean, there's nothing better than that. The random notes that you get from people from anywhere around the world that are like that. I mean, that's why I do it. I probably the books I've almost look, the books don't yield much money, and the pain and effort that you go through to produce them to yield very little in the name of helping people, I think that's a decent cause. I can live with that for myself. If you're writing a book for vanity only, I don't know. I don't know about that. I know what happens. I'm not gonna have an opinion on that. Like,
See,
that's good.
Meenakshi, I'd give you a slightly different answer. Because I would say, yes, I love educating. Yes, I love talking about numbers. Yes, I love writing it down. Yes, it's a great way for me to be able to give people a bunch of knowledge at a very low price point, right? It's the most approachable way for me to be able to distribute knowledge outside the podcast that's a little bit more detailed without having people have to have a barrier to entry to get to it. I will also tell you it's a great marketing piece for me personally.
Mhm.
And if I said it wasn't a little bit about vanity, I'd probably be lying because I really like talking about my books, and I really like it when people mention them. So there is that vanity piece is there. I think I'm
Yeah.
with Dave, that's not a primary driver, but I'm not sure personally if you can write a book knowing how many hours you put into it and how much money you spend to get it edited and designed and everything else, and then how little tiny amount of money you make. If there wasn't some vanity piece to it, I don't know that I would necessarily do it just because you have to get some feel good somewhere because it's definitely not coming from the income.
That's true.
Yeah. That's
Put
true.
Yeah,
your
that's true.
signature so you can put author on your signature.
Huh.
I even shy away from that. Like, I'm afraid to call myself an author. I'm not I've got books. Like, that to me is an insult to the profession to call me an author. The books, I love the books. The books are good. I just there's yeah, I'm no James Patterson. Like, there's people out there that have, that are masters at writing books. I don't think I'm one of them. But I do believe in the books, and they stand up. But
But Dave, I'm just gonna call you out real quick. You say, "I don't call myself an author." You are the most prolific writer of the best books about bars that there is from a management perspective. Like, you've written more than anyone.
that's kind of you to say. That's probably more of an indictment on the industry.
Hey, the bar shift book is fantastic. I mean, like I said it before, I hand that out to some of the crew that, I feel like they want to know more about the business. So that's sort of like the bar Bible. Hey, read this. You will elevate your game in multiple facets of the business. So the bar shift is like a continuing education course. I mean, there's several chapters in there that are key. I definitely want to get the menu book. I've got 20 questions about menus right now. And, I just know we can do a better job. And I know there's an art and a science behind the menus. It's just magic to me. And I just haven't figured it out. So I definitely will be looking at that.
I'll give you a good example. Like, this podcast probably wouldn't be happening if not for Hospitality DNA, because I would have never met Meenakshi.
Mhm.
Like, I met
Yeah.
Meenakshi through writing Hospitality DNA, and writing that book was a pure joy. I got to meet operators from all over the world that I never would have otherwise known. I learned so much about all sorts of things. I loved that project. It's still to this day my favorite, and I've created I'd like to think Meenakshi and I are friends, and I've created lifelong friends from writing a book that actually helps people. So that stuff is really I mean, for me, I love that, man. I think that's just great.
That's gonna wrap us up for this episode of Party of Six. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you wanna get a hold of anyone on the panel, go down in the show notes. There are links to get in touch with all of us. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. We'll be back next month Well, we'll talk about some of our favorite books in the hospitality industry and some other educational tools you should look at to help move your bar or restaurant forward. With that, hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again later.